Dr. Sanghera, thank you so much for coming on the show. Why did George Mason University decide that something like a data center engineering concentration program would be valuable? I'm curious how that conversation got started, and I'm looking forward for you to tell us more, because I would say heck to the yeah, being in the data center industry. But can you help us understand how that came about and why this is a program that they're even considering?
Yeah, thank you, Dave, first of all, for having me here with you. Uh, it's a very interesting question, right? So Northern Virginia is having 300 plus data centers.
Mm,
We are the 70% of data internet flow is happening right from here.
mm-hmm,
So there is internally there is demand for them to sustain some of the aging infrastructure. So we are just not talking about plugging wires and so on, but we're talking about how to sustain what is the new technology that they can bring in their systems. From university, a data center, it's not all about data center. There's just so much you can learn from working in a data center, right?
mm-hmm,
So there is you learn about sustainable energy, you learn about renewable energy, you learn about what to do with the energy that is there and how to make it more efficient, how to
mm-hmm,
manage power over there. So uh, there is just so much you can do. So we are just not thinking about data center as data center jobs only,
mm-hmm,
but taking a broader vision of what can you learn just having that infrastructure in front of you. So, internal demand was there from data centers, that they need infra engineers. External demand is coming from faculty and students about, what can we do when we have that infrastructure available and the data available to us? What can students learn that is for data center engineers plus everything else that is around that?
I heard a statistic, I don't know if this is true, but roughly 60% of the data of the world moves through something like that through Northern Virginia.
I
Of
heard
the entire world,
70%.
70%. There you go. Maybe even I was being conservative. But it's isn't that crazy to think about?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think data center concentration is something that we are looking forward to, and we know that it is going to begin. All the approvals, internal approvals are done. We are at the last stages of getting our final approvals and then having it in the catalog for the fall 2024.
Mm,
But I think you said about the demand, the economics, the livelihood, right?
right.
It's so important because and we are taking it at a different level. So Northern Virginia Community College, which is a local college here, two-year
Mm-hmm,
college here in Northern Virginia, they already have a program called Data Center Operations. And so they have been doing very good in working with students and giving them those skills that they
mm-hmm,
can go and take it to the data center operations kind of jobs. But for us, we are working with mechanical engineering department and electrical and computer engineering department where they have a little bit more specialized skills that are needed, right? So they're talking about, how to make again the energy efficient, their liquid cooling system, power grids, and so on. The infra kind of jobs is what they have been talking about. And the nicest thing here is because the pipeline that Northern Virginia Community College has generated, and these students are now working as data center operators,
mm-hmm.
um, will get a chance to learn about project management skills. They're going to get a chance to go to the next level in their jobs, and I think that's the cool part of the whole equation here.
I completely agree. I mean, we as an operator in this space, we one of the things that my organization does is every few months we have a new employee orientation program, and we're all over North America. We're in parts of Western Europe, and every new employee comes through that program. They may not come through the next one when they're hired, but within a few months they come through that program. In the past, it was here is somebody, whatever their job is, engineer or otherwise, and they usually have some experience in our business. They don't just know how to move an electron or how to move a water molecule or build infrastructure, but they know sort of the big idea of what a data center is or what digital infrastructure is. Probably 60%, 70% of those coming into our business now don't know. It's sort of like being in the military. If you had been around weapons and organization in the past, now we're teaching you how to do that in a uniform and to do it in the way the military wants you to do it, as opposed to, I don't even know what a weapon is, never even seen it. I'm just coming in. I don't know how these things work. So we have so many people coming into the industry because they're attracted to it, and we have to teach them a foundational truths that we might not have had to teach their predecessors. When you're putting a program like this together, is there a criteria you use to select for certain students, or is there a particular type of student that you look for?
Yeah, that's all customer discovery, right? We wanted to make sure that we know that there are signals coming from students as well,
Uh-huh.
because that is very important. And I think what you were saying earlier is also related to exposure, right? So we wanted to have an exposure to students about, hey, there are those buildings that you see, what's the purpose, what's happening there, and what kind of jobs are there
Right.
for these students. So exposure was very important. So what we did actually, we started small. We actually introduced students to data center engineering kinds of problems in their capstone courses,
Mm-hmm.
just to see, whether there is even interest coming from students. And so we had our first capstone in mechanical engineering, which was quite well received. And then we had then this semester we have one in mechanical engineering and one in electrical engineering for electrical engineering students. And that is also, there are students who are working on it and they're excited about it, and we are seeing good results from those ones. Now, the next level was introducing a data center course. Data center engineering course is what we're calling it,
Mm-hmm.
which was introduced this semester to them as well. And
Mm.
now, since there is interest and we are seeing a holistic view of, what else could be done, that is
Mm-hmm.
that was a whole exercise that we went through in order to even start thinking about, let's now put our concentration together. So we did take a lot of steps to making sure that, and even educating faculty members, because they don't know, and then field trips are important. And then there are some data centers that are decommissioned. Could those be used for students to go and experiment and learn a little bit more, because the clearance is going to come and become an issue eventually, right? Because we cannot just take students for field trips to these data centers. So there's a lot of the
Right.
administrative stuff that we wanted to think through.
The students that you're running the capstone or the conversations with now, they're already in an engineering program. Is that this initial discussion with that group of students?
Yeah, so capstones are usually introduced in the last 2 semesters.
Okay.
So this is like literally graduating class of fall 2024 who might be doing it now and spring semester. And
Right.
that's where I think we realize that students need to know it before, their last year with us, right?
Right.
Because there's so much that we can do with these facilities that are available, like, of course, decommission one,
Mm-hmm.
and there's just so much learning that could happen because we can use it as a lab environment for them to give them hands-on experience on so many activities. So that was the whole purpose to start it early. So right now it is going to be from third year onwards. So third year and fourth year, they will get it once they have the foundation from first and second year. Then it is all about how to apply it in
Right.
various labs or various scenarios which are in data center
Have you
available.
all experimented with maybe not an entire concentration program, but just maybe a class or small snippets of exposure to something, if not as formal as data centers, something related to digital infrastructure? Do you have any experience, or have you? I'm sure you have some experience, but have they tried some of that experimentally before?
Yeah, so in various settings, yes, in data center, we did start with reaching out to students and talking about, giving them seminars. We started actually working with a couple of our uh, industry partners, inviting them over to classrooms and talk about, what it is like over there. Unfortunately, there was not much that was available for us to just showcase to students or embedded in our classrooms, right? We needed industry experts to come and talk to them. So we
Right.
started including some pieces of industry engagement at the same time before we even started talking about or thinking about. And that actually educated faculty members as well and administrators as well, that there is need and there is demand out there.
Right. My dad was a programmer for IBM for decades, and I'll never forget him coming home because I wanted nothing to do with computers when I was a kid in the late 70s, early 80s when I was in high school. And it was what my dad did. Like, it seemed boring. It didn't seem interesting to me at all. Took me more than a decade before I was like, this is pretty interesting. And ironically, gaming got me involved in it, like it does a lot of people. But anyway, there was when when industry began needing what we call IT people, back then they called them computer people. What you did was you converted the person who could fix the fax machine or the copier or whatever. They already sort of had a business mind. They really didn't think of themselves as computer hardware people or programmers but what we learned was they were problem solvers. They could solve puzzles. And there was a particular bent to them. A lot of people coming out of the military, from a telecom background, learned this. But there were no classes. There were no real programs. You sort of had your little experimental computer, whether it's a Radio Shack or a Mac or something at the high school. But it was like the nerds in the chess club did. Salute to all nerds in the chess club. But it was, who probably own the world now. But anyway, but within a few years, first universities who were much more open-minded, then it began extending out where nobody's even going to go to a school if you don't have a program. I wonder if because this is such an important support mechanism, digital infrastructure, if you think maybe not as dramatic as what happened in the early mid-'80s with building out first very modest and then very detailed programs for computer engineering, computer design, all the things that relate to the software, et cetera. Do you think that there's a possibility that something like the concentration track you're working on could evolve into even degree programs, not just a track, but certainly a significant emphasis more than a semester or two? Do you think that's a possibility?
That's a very interesting. We have not started thinking about that track yet, but the process we followed, right? So I think this can become an independent something one day, because we started again off, doing with capstones and then course, and then now it is concentration. Hopefully, if everything goes
Right.
well with it, and then the next step is an independent degree. So who knows where we end up being next year at this time. If there's so much demand, then it's a possibility.
Yeah. I think one of the ways that demand can be made is and I think you've already started doing this. I mean, you've got some significant partners in industry, tech firms. Everybody knows their names, and probably data centers like my organization and others. But top 5, top 8, top 10 infrastructure organizations. Do you invite them in to have an active conversation, not just to shape the program, but to actually engage in conversation with your prospective students?
Yes, all the time. And those who are left out, we are finding ways to get to them.
Yeah.
But that's an important piece. As faculty members, our job is usually to teach them concepts, give them lab experiments, invite, industry speakers, have seminars around, and so on. So I would say any university in this region, I would say that cannot give a holistic view of what we teach without having the industry partner in the room with us whether it is about assessing curriculum, whether it is looking at courses, looking at labs, looking into, what are the gaps there. So we are always constantly in touch with them. I think there could be also some of them. I'm trying to recall from a memory
Mm,
now. I think somebody from data center is actually going to be serving in one of the advisory board as well,
mm,
just so that they can advise us on, what are the curriculum gaps are there, or what are we missing basically.
right. When you get a guest to come in and speak to the students directly, what's their response? Are they interested? Are they indifferent? Are they really engaged? What's the response like?
Yeah, so it's I have done STEM outreach for many years. I would say maybe I think 10 or 12 years, and I have done it for the engineering and computer science program, computing programs at George Mason University.
Mm,
And one thing that if you ask a middle schooler or a kindergarten, our
mm-hmm,
elementary school student,
mm-hmm,
what you want to be or where you what area interests you, mostly they just say either they want to be engineer or they want to be a medical doctor because these are two fields that they have seen.
right.
So that's a mindset we take it, right. We do need to expose students as much as possible to these fields, and they do take it very positively because they see their applications. Students are always mostly about, hey, what can I do to solve a problem? So we present actually data centers with that. These are the challenges, or this is where they're looking to improve the infrastructure, and then students roll up their sleeves and they're all excited about it, and they want to now provide some input or provide some framework that could be used over there. And then that's where the discussion starts. That's where students are excited. That's where the industry partner who brought that challenge to us is excited because now they're seeing, oh, this is a different way of looking at this problem. So
Right. Are you allowed to? I don't know if you are, so I'll just ask here. Are you allowed to name any of those industry or technology partners that you either come and talk or work with you guys to have a conversation with your students?
yeah, no. So the concentration that we are building is in partnership with Amazon. We relied
Oh, nice.
heavily on their advice to us, their input to us. So it is actually they were there with us and helped us shape the whole
Yeah.
program.
I mean, I guess they'll do. I mean, they're all right. They're pretty good size. One of the cool things about somebody like Amazon, if you, at least the way I think about it, they have there are so when you say it's kind of like saying a car or an automobile. Do you mean a truck? Do you mean a sedan? Do you mean a military? Do you mean a sports? There's so many things it can mean. And with somebody like Amazon, they are they were the foundational group that built the cloud. The first private cloud, then public cloud, then federal cloud, and all these securities. And there are a number of players, significant, worthy technology competitors of theirs, but they have so much experience in that space. They have experience building and operating their own data centers. They have so much experience in e-commerce. They have such a great position in philosophy on sustainability. So while we're going out and we're developing these systems and these facilities, this is how we need to be good stewards in the environment. And we didn't set this question up. This sounds like I set it up, but we didn't set this question up. But I love that somebody like that, and hopefully more will join them, to come in and engage, and not just to cast the imagination of your students for like how it could help their, and I think they should start there, like as a career, as a job, but also the influence. If you get involved in we're building this infrastructure, how do we do it in a way that makes sense for ourselves, our community, and in our environment? And that's a significant player that can help them think about things bigger than themselves, I think.
Yeah, I think what else Amazon brought was KSAs. They spelled it out
Mm,
for us. Like they said, these are the knowledge, skills, and abilities that we would like to see in students applying for these jobs. So the data was on their fingertips when they came, or whereas when we have been working with others, they are interested in this concept, they want to support it, but and I think that's where the engagement got tighter with them because it was about going back and asking for clarifications. What does this really mean to you? What kind of activities students can do to fulfill this requirement? And I think that played a big role for us.
Yeah, I can see that, and what a gold mine for somebody like that with that kind of experience. I mean, it can be, I see where their interest would be. They need people, not just intelligent people that are capable of getting the technology done, but to have the right culture and the right philosophy, and to persuade people. I think that's a genius idea. I should make a note of it. We should do it ourselves. I love it. When do you think the program is expected to launch? I know we're talking about it. It doesn't. I don't think it's published yet. You guys are working very hard to get it published soon. What's the time frame look like?
Yeah, we expect it to be in catalog by in the spring 2024.
Okay.
So by February, we should have it in our course catalog, and then it is going to be introduced to students. Students can register to these courses starting fall 2024.
Okay.
So spring semester is when they're going to start registering for these
Okay.
courses.
One of the challenges is always how do you keep them fresh? Like how do you keep the content near to what they can expect in the real world? We don't. I can't. Industry moves much quicker than any government entity for sure, and not everything that maybe is the flavor today will be the flavor in 6 months. So you don't want to adjust a curriculum for something that's just gonna not be relevant in 18 months. But how do you, just your experience in general, and this program, how do you guys work to keep the program relevant, fresh, and moving forward, so that somebody participating in something like this is pretty confident? Yeah, this is as accurate as any other program out there that a university is offering.
Yeah. So upskilling, reskilling, we have an independent unit at university, continuing education unit, where they do offer programs where students can just come in, participants can just come in and can upskill, reskill on it. And that's one thing that might become the long-term strategy of this as well,
Hmm.
because I think you mentioned about, hey, how about a degree, independent degree, right?
Yeah.
And I think one more output or long-term strategy that we have is, offer smaller programs that participants just come in and can just either, audit or just sit through or just take for upskilling and reskilling purposes. So that's a one that we would love to do with industry partners, so that because then they like to come in a cohort,
Mm.
and then go through it in a cohort. And that gives them the immersive experience as well, with their either colleagues or with colleagues from other industry partners as well. And rather than mixing them up um, with students who are really doing it for the credits,
Right.
this is a different environment that they need to feel like and have a different curriculum as well for them.
I have three 20-something-year-old daughters, two of whom are in university. One is looking to graduate. I think she's fall semester, spring semester, at the end of spring semester 2024. And one of the things that I have been asking her is, how is a university, she's at the University of North Georgia, coming alongside over this last semester to direct her towards things that, places that she may take her degree and apply it. Do you envision, if you don't have it already, do you envision something like that? These are the technology firms that we know, or these are the people in industry that are related, whether they're part of the sponsors of this event or this program to keep it evergreen and fresh or whatever. But when you come through this program, we want to introduce you to these firms. And let me tell you why my self-interest for that is, if there are two or three big themes in the data center industry that we talk about all the time. Certainly the technology, how do we build them at speed, at scale, supply chain, all the things related to that. Another big thing that we talk about is, how are we good stewards in an environment, in a community? Just because compute is growing, how we use water, how we use power, how we impact the land that we're building on. It's our children that live in these neighborhoods. It's our grandkids. We don't always get good press like that, but that really is, for anybody who's going to be in this industry for any length of time and be successful, this is one of our key conversations that we have with our suppliers, with ourselves, with policymakers. But the third is, in order to do all of that, I have to have people, smart people, like-minded people, people that can join a mission and a purpose and an idea. We need people. And we're always talking about in our industry, how do we go find people? Traditionally they look like me, my gender, my ethnicity, my whatever, because 25 years ago, we sort of wandered into this path. It can't look like that anymore. There's not enough of us, and probably a good thing. We need a mix of all of these people, and our common denominator is not going to be our ethnicity or our gender or age. It's going to be, we want to work for something, that can change our lives and change our communities' lives. So we're constantly talking about labor force and how do we attract and retain talent. And I'm just curious, when you imagine doing something like this, how do you see, if not fully evolved today, but one of the ways it would be really attractive to me, and I got to imagine to your students, is how we direct them after graduation or through graduation to evaluate firms and join this labor pool.
Yeah, so early visibility is very important. I think what happens traditionally, what has happened is industry is going to come to be just part of a career fair, and usually students who are attending career fairs are in third year or fourth year because now they are looking to finding a job. It is too late when you have big companies who have the brand established versus a newer field in itself, data center engineering, plus a newer name tag over there. It just doesn't, I have been to career fairs where there are long lines for those companies, even though students may know that, hey, my resume is just going to get buried there because
Right.
they have already collected 3,000 resumes versus, where there's a potential, they are not even in the line there, mainly because they do not know about the company, they do not know about, what the culture out there is, what do they do, so I think having more internships available to students so that they get to know a little bit more about, whether this is the right company to be in for their full-time positions. So early visibility is very important, and not just being reactive to, hey, there's a career fair going, and so let's go and set up a booth there, but participating in seminars, coming early on and having those, some kind of an outreach that could be done with students, either through capstone courses or just providing them projects or something like that. That really improves the visibility or the chances that, now students are academic advisors know about this company that is promoted. There are lots of ways to do it. And I think one thing that we are doing is, preparing students for tech prep, technical interviews as well.
Mm,
So working with companies about, what kind of technical interviews that they have conducted. Some of them are really, really, multi days of
right.
those technical interviews, right? And so
Yep.
they need a different preparation. That way, company gets to engage with students. They're talking about, what they're, so students have the confidence also that, yeah, I understand, I can go
Right.
in. I don't have to worry about it because I know,
Right.
what are the steps here, and this is the process that I have to follow. Whereas again, if they don't have that, so there are lots of ways that we are preparing our students to engage with industry partners early on and look for those opportunities, not only what is provided to them, but also be proactive and look for some of those as well.
I love those multi-day technical interviews, but only if I'm doing the interview, not going through the interview. It's way more fun to ask the questions than get asked
Yeah.
the questions. What if we flipped it on its head? What if organizations like mine, who are looking to solve a problem, said to themselves, listening to this podcast, and said, holy cow, I would love to get involved not just at the obvious career fair, but I would love to be able to join the conversation to cast a vision. Honestly, we love our engineers. I mean, in some of my campuses, I need 50, 60% of the engineers in a state or in a metropolitan area to work on some of my projects. And not just at one time, but a career doing that. We also need attorneys. We also need so many non-technical people. Like it's like what people are shocked when they go on like an aircraft carrier. How many people that have nothing to do with taking off, landing, or flying airplanes are on that plane? Everybody from the cook to the cleaners to the secretary, this entire organization. And one of the things I love about, I wasn't in the Navy, I was airborne infantry in the Army, so patriotic enough to join the military, too dumb to know to do something other than jump out of airplanes. Who does that? But anyway, one of the things they do really well in the Navy in particular is when you get a job, you might be working on a Navy nuke and you're in the nuclear plant, but you also might learn a station to your right and a station to your left that has nothing to do with energy. It might be other things. And as you go through these programs, not only are you rewarded for increasing your skill, but you might find, I like this better. I like being an architect or a designer more than I like turning a nut or bolt or vice versa. So if organizations like ours want to come and find a way to get engaged across a wide variety of things, whether it's helping keep content fresh or just showing up and conversing with students or whoever, how do they do it at George Mason? And what are some ideas you can give us to think about on how we might get more involved?
No, Dave, reach out to me, and there's just so much here to do. Actually, anywhere, any academic institute is going to welcome any input from industry partners, whether it is, again, whether it's a class visit, whether it is just setting up a day with us and coming to students and talk about what it is like working in data center, what kind of positions are there, what is the career trajectory looks like for them, because these students are looking into, hey, where am I going to be in 5 years, where am I going to be 10 years, and so on. And
Right.
talking to them about that in various fields. Just as you said, you need lawyers, you need non-technical skills as well. I think that students really want to know about all of this. So I am the front door opener. So feel free to reach out to me and I will open the front door for you.
I love it. Well, I think you've answered sort of where I was going to go, I guess, in my last question, which is if people, students or parents or folks like us, and we'll make sure we include a link with this published podcast, what's the best way they can get in touch with you to start a conversation?
Yeah, I know I am mostly on LinkedIn, so feel free to include my LinkedIn
Okay.
information there. They can reach out to me, Kamaljeet Sanghera, and my email address. Most likely you have it, but I'll just say it out, ksangher@gme.edu, and I will welcome all kinds of input. So just reach out to me.
All right. Dr. Sanghera, what have we not talked about that we should have before we wrap it up today? Anything?
I think you covered all of it. I think one thing that we did not talk about is pipeline from high school. What are we doing over there in order to build the pipeline so students, when they go to community
Yeah.
college, or they know what path to choose.
Yeah.
And I think that's something maybe we save it for our next podcast, or maybe something that
Okay.
could be discussed with high schools as well. What are they doing in order to generate that pipeline?
I think that's a great idea, and I look forward to that conversation. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Dave, for having me.
My great pleasure. Hey, if you liked the conversation, hit the thumbs up, and if you loved it, subscribe. We'll see you next time, everybody. Have a good day.